Good afternoon. Welcome back to this arcade workshop on edge cases. And if all is well, you see the screen. Let's quickly guide you through the agenda. This plenary is very brief and has a couple of statements on the agenda and the way of working, and then we quickly move to the breakouts. So first of all, we looked at this morning's topics that were raised in the Padlet. So at the end of the presentations, there was audience input on what needs to be worked on. We signed all of that to the various breakouts, and in the breakouts you will be hearing more of that. So we have 3 breakouts this afternoon. You have all registered for one of them. In all cases, we could assign people to their first choice. You will have received quite a number of emails with links to these sessions. So how it works is this is the plenary session. Then you have a second link in your email to the breakout. And at the end, we come back together again in this meeting, and that's the third link in your email. If you're completely confused, just let us know in the chat. I'll stay in this session a bit longer to make sure you find your way. Let's go further. So the way of working in the breakouts is as follows. Use the mails that you received to go to the breakout. We'll do questions in the chat box. You are asked to turn off your microphone and camera. The speakers will use the camera. Each breakout has 30 plus participants, so it's simply too much to all be visible. The interaction in the workshop will be mostly through Padlet, and depending on how the breakout is set up, but you can use the chat box at any rate. And of course, when we're really into discussion, the moderator may invite people to open their microphone and explain things, or really go in a one-to-one discussion. If you leave the breakout session, so this will be 3:45, you simply close the session, and this session will still be open, and you press the resume button and you'll return back to this session, which is the same place as the wrap-up link that you received. So that's all for now for going to the breakouts. So I invite you to go there now and use the link that is in your email. So and see you back in the breakout, and enjoy the presentations and the discussion.
Sitze,
Yes.
This is Eric. I might just stay here, and then you can go to breakout 2 and welcome the participants.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So I'll stay here until at least 10 to past 2.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So please. Okay, I'll be moving myself. Yeah, thanks, Eric. So welcome back to the plenary, where we will wrap up the workshop today. Just checking, is breakout 1 already back, Sami or Yvonne?
Yeah, it's on the SharePoint.
Yeah, perfect. And same for breakout 3. Laura, are you already back, and Julien?
Yes.
Yes, we are back.
Okay, then let's get started. So thanks. I hope you had a nice breakout. I know we did in breakout 2. Let's go to the wrap up. There are a couple of slides that we created to show you the conclusions of the various breakouts. And let's put them on the screen here. Yeah. Right. So we go to breakout 1, and whom can I give the words?
Yeah, that's me, Yvonne Barnard from the University of Leeds. We had very interesting discussions and presentation in breakout 1, very active participants. We were talking about definitions of edge cases, and there are lots of definitions. It's about unusual, extreme situations, etc., etc. But as we already have seen in the morning, it's very difficult to find the one definition, and we did not try to come up with our own definition, but discussed lots of elements around that. But definitions are important. If you want to do some systematic investigation, you need more than just a definition that's in some vocabulary that's just saying that's extreme and unusual. When we talk about AV, there is the problem of interpreting and understanding complex situations where humans can deal with all these strange events. We saw on some of the slides how to interpret the things that are being sensed for an AV is difficult. We talked a lot about ODD, the operational design definition. If you want to get to the edge cases, you need a lot more detail than just saying the car can drive here or there. That relates that you to the need to know the limits of the systems you are testing or validating. I think we have some noise on the line. I hope everyone is muted. A speaker talked about transparency readiness. We need to know about these systems if we are going to understand and interpret edge cases. And for that, again, a lot of detail is needed, and transparency about what systems can and cannot do is needed. An interesting approach is the so-called legal human limit edge case. What is within acceptable limits, both from a user point of view, but also from a legal point of view, from the courts or for the experts in accident investigations. So that's another way of looking at edge cases, looking at those limits. We talked about parameters for edge cases. These are, of course, multidimensional, but we have to test meaningful cases, not every parameter separately, but cases that have a meaning and we can test on real roads. Then, of course, the question about human-caused edge cases, strange situations where humans react in an unpredictable way. Should we anticipate the worst cases? Should the car try to avoid them? How do we analyze liability? And this is related to how the competency of the system and the user, and again related to that ODD.
Yvonne,
We discussed
one minute.
Yeah. Okay. Not all edge cases are related to safety. An AV is not there just to stop, but it has to fulfill its driver mission. And then comes the relation with the teleoperation that can maybe do something about that. We had a short discussion about cyber attacks and hacking, a specific kind of edge case. It's about interaction between internal and external parameters, both the vehicle and the environment. Edge cases can also be used to inform the ODD, and ODDs must be monitored all the time. And finally, in scenarios, there has to be references to the human driver, to the human other road user. And we have to find that global risk balance between the human and the AV. It's a lot of points, and hopefully in the report of this event, we will provide more details.
Very nice. Thank you, Yvonne. There's lots of topics covered. That's very clear. And then we move to breakout 2, and that's Erik Svanberg.
Yes, hello, this is Erik Svanberg from SAFER, and I was trying to monitor what happened in breakout session 2. It was a challenging task. It was many different and interesting discussions. We had 2 presentations from Austria Tech and VMV methods that really was interesting. So the discussions that we had and also seen in our Padlet. First, we had 5 different kind of discussion topics, which methods are the best today, and what can we use right now. And we discussed statisticals, black box features to understand the occurrence of how often this happens. It was mentioned also later that we need technology independent edge cases when we detect them, because we cannot really we should not share data where we reveal the OEM and different IP rights, etc. So we need to keep it on a more abstract level than very detailed. Also, it was mentioned that we want to have qualitative analysis rather than quantitative, and for sure also simulations are important. When it comes to sources, we have accident data, of course. We have simulations. It was a discussion on how to get data from infrastructure. For example, if you have areas where you know there has been many occurrences or incidents, that could be something to discuss. But that was also posed and discussed that we need also random events from maybe trajectories, just to get to find those edge cases where it is that seldom happen, more or less. So what are the missing sources? And for sure we do not have any more or less any autonomous vehicle accidents when we also need near crashes or near misses as input there. So that is of course not there yet. That will come in the end, and we might categorize these kind of databases differently in terms of accidents from autonomous vehicles and accidents from manual driving. So should we share the edge cases? Yes, that was a mandate that we need to share the edge cases. It's, as I said before, it needs to be technology independent, and we need standardization on formats. It was mentioned the High Drive project that is starting this later this year. That will be one project that will work on this. So bottlenecks. It was mentioned that if we detect edge cases, let's say from simulations or from accidents or from where we share the edge cases together, we also need principles and methods to updating software or even hardware to prevent these, so that we don't have vehicles running around that are dangerous, more or less. Also, we need edge cases that are location specific in terms of environment. So it could be warm or cold. It could be different animals. There are many different topics that are very specific to the country or even the part of a country that needs to be addressed. And I think that was also mentioned earlier today. I hope I got some conclusions from Breakout 2 on this, but you will read more in the report also. Thank you.
Thanks, Erik Svanberg. And then we move on to the last breakout, which is number 3. And I give the word to Julien or Laura. Yes, Laura or Julien, can we have your...
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was not prepared like this, but that's okay. So we had a lot of discussions and a lot of good interactions between the participants. I have we have put here our inputs. So we talked about. We had a 2 impulse talk, one from Data from the University of Warwick and one from Benoit from BMW, and we talked about how do we come to the edge cases. And what we had an example methods STPA explained, and this was a good example because then we saw the link. Okay, if we want to use edge cases for validation, we have to consider several aspects. We have to consider the ODD, we have to consider the vehicle, the hazards relevant for the system. So that was quite nice. We also talked about criteria to consider edge cases relevant for validation. So we talked about the limitation of defect, severity, and exposure, and other criteria, like for example ODD or ODD coverage. We say the edge case is a function of system design, so should be. It's not just ODD, it's the system design itself is important, and system design also means up to subsystems, like for example sensors, sensor configuration, and so on. So we discussed about the hybrid method, means considering both ODD system and subsystem for the use of edge case in the validation activities. We talked about when do we stop collecting edge cases, so how many edge cases do we need, how safe is safe enough. And we said it's not only to be defined from a technical point of view, it's also related to the AV system in its environment and with other traffic participants, and also from legal point of view should be considered. Okay, what we talked about also is edge cases should change the developer and help them to discover unknown situation. So it's a learning loop. So you have a first set of edge cases, and then you have to see in the rollout of your system, and you have to monitor and you have to detect new edge cases which are relevant. So it's a continuous learning loop. And for this, we need to collect the data, and also this data will have to be shared to some extent. We say also edge cases testing, it's also good to focus on subsystem. So to define some edge cases which are taking into account component level specifics, especially if we talk about perception components, then maybe you have different edge cases to be validated depending on if you have a camera or radar or LiDAR in your perception system. We say in the session we talked about the edge case definition, but we say, okay, to assess the result of validation using edge cases, you need a very good description of the ODD. And this led us to the discussion, okay, you also need a definition of the expected system behavior in this ODD. And using those information, you could derive pass criteria that you could apply to the edge cases to say you validate it or not. And we talked about what kind of testing tools would be involved in validating the edge cases. And we see the simulation very useful, but simulation and test at software level will not be enough. We also see testing at vehicle level. So it could be on test track with virtual injection of traffic participants, so vehicle in the loop tests, or also real test with real recreation of edge cases. Most of the edge cases will be difficult to reproduce completely, and here we see the virtual testing playing a big role. So lots of discussion, I think, and I hope we will detail our results in the proceedings and make it available to all you guys.
Okay, thanks, Julien and Laura. So this, thanks for summarizing this. We want to thank you for joining, and I want to ask the organization team to actually open their cameras and show who they are, because they we together did all this work, and it would be good to know to thank you for that. So there is Yvonne Barnard, there is Erik Svanberg, Inema Satu from VTT, Erik van Sever, Yvonne from ITS Leeds. There is Sami Koskinen also from VTT, Laura Sands from IDIADA, Julien Bou from Bosch. As you can see on the slides, there is a next workshop coming up on June 16 on vehicle technologies for CCAM. And if you're interested, then use that email address, then you can indicate and be informed about the next steps in preparing that workshop. So thank you all for attending. And we think it was, we opened up the black box of edge cases a bit more in today in this workshop, and a very large diversity. I also want to thank all the presenters, because that's really the put some meat to the bone, as we say. It was really the content of the workshop. So thank you all, and wish you a good evening. We will be publishing the presentations probably tomorrow on the same page where you registered.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for the organization. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.